want to talk about something that we discussed a little bit on the phone this week, and that is the whole task force KleptoCapture and what we might do to address not just Russian officials and oligarchs' circumvention of sanctions and export restrictions, but also what needs to happen to address the ability of transnational crime organizations, corrupt officials in places like Russia, from being able to park their money in our financial system in the United States and the West, and what we need to do to prevent that. And I want to start with the fact that we provided the FBI with over $43 million in supplemental funding for the task force KleptoCapture as part of the 2022 omnibus. Can you talk a little bit about how you're using that funding and what else we ought to be thinking about as we're looking at how we address the ability of criminals to use our financial system for their own benefit?
Well, first let me say that those who've been profiting from corruption in Russia and treating the world like it's their playground by evading sanctions are people that we are coming after and working closely with partners not just across the federal government, but also with a whole host of foreign partners. And obviously the new KleptoCapture task force is an integral, really at the heart of that effort. And we've had some success already in freezing bank accounts, luxury yachts, artwork, things like that. Sometimes that's through enabling the FBI provides information to a foreign partner and they're able to take action to seize or freeze, and sometimes it's through us using our own authorities. We're also going after, and this is important, and it goes to something I think that you and I talked about on the phone, it goes to not just the oligarchs, the sanctioned individuals themselves, but to the whole ecosystem or infrastructure that they rely on, the people that they may have on their payroll, the people that otherwise enable them to engage in the corruption and the sanctions evasion. And that's an important part of it. As to the funds, the $43 million that you referred to, for which we're very grateful, we're using that in a variety of ways. Some of it is, of course, going to our cyber efforts and our counterintelligence efforts related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But we are using it part for our agents and personnel on the KleptoCapture task force, as well as, and this is an important piece, our pursuit of the cryptocurrency, because that's an important ingredient for a lot of the bad actors here, many of whom think that they can hide behind the anonymization that exists with virtual currency, and they're not as clever as they think they are, but we have to continue to evolve our own technologies and tradecraft to be able to go after them, and we've made some very significant seizures of cryptocurrency lately, working with the Department of Justice, and that's going to be an increasingly important part of this going forward.
So what's been the biggest obstacle in trying to address activity, particularly with respect to Russia and the war in Ukraine and those sanctions?
I think I would say that the biggest challenge that we face is a lot of these folks are pretty savvy about relying on opaque other foreign jurisdictions. So there are ways in which, by taking advantage of some of those other systems, they're able to make it more challenging for us to follow the money and get after the money. Not necessarily impossible, and there's a role here for diplomacy, State Department, Treasury Department, others, in engaging with some of those foreign partners to work better with us to help make sure that we've clamped down on the system.
Any particular entities that you would like to name?
I think the State Department would probably appreciate it if I didn't name specific countries in an open hearing. But
although you pointed out we are cooperating with the international community, and I have heard from some officials that there are entities that may be maybe part of other countries where countries have cracked down in country, but those entities where they still have significant interests may not have provided the same kind of crackdown. Is that, I mean, I'm being pretty opaque here in the way I'm describing it.
Right, no, opaque is the right word, both for the way we have to talk about it, but also what's in some of these countries. I will say there have been quite a number of countries where we've gotten more cooperation than we might have, in years past. So I don't want to make it sound too bleak. We've had a number of partners that have taken, for them, more aggressive action than we would historically have seen. And that's, I think, a measure of the international community being so appalled by what Russia's up to in the Ukraine.
Thank you.